Today, we have such an awesome conversation with a very, very good and close friend of mine, Carlo Navoa. And Carlo is the perfect person to talk to on this particular subject because he has so many different things that he does in his career. He's an educator, he's a hairdresser, he's an inspirational speaker, he is a spiritual practitioner, he's a coach, he's a mentor. He lives so many different lives within our industry and outside of the industry. So tonight we want to bring him on. So please, in the comments, everybody welcome Carlo Navoa. What's up, brother?
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that introduction. Wow, I sound pretty.
True, dude. I'm not making stuff up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, as I started to think about the subject for today, I was like, it'd be so fun to talk about what is happening with so many people. And I know you have coaching clients too that you probably have had this conversation with. But I think more and more people are looking to this concept of, okay, well, I've been a hairdresser for maybe 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And, I would like to maybe do some other things on top of this to add to my repertoire. And I think the old school mentality, Carlo, was that if we're going to do something else, it's like this complete pivot. Well, I have to stop doing this to do this instead. But I think what we're really seeing is that now that's not the truth. You can have multiple careers.
Absolutely. So I first of all, I love the way that you titled this, the multi-career mindset. Like, I want to first bring attention to that, because what I want for me, let me keep it in the eye, to make sure that everyone watching or that will watch later completely gets that by no means am I making luxurious the hustle. Like, oh, I got to do this hustle. I got this other job. Now I got this little gig and I got this side gig. Like, I want to make sure that everybody understands that is not what we're talking about at all, right?
True.
We're not, so I just wanted to make sure, because that's why I love so much the way that it was multi-career mindset. It's a mindset, not a historical way of living that I'm bringing forward because I saw it growing up or et cetera, right? So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that. Second of all, when you mentioned about old school belief systems, especially some of us who were brought up in families, households where our parents retired from the job that they started on. And so to them, the concept of anyone, let alone their children, switching careers sounds just completely odd. So there's that. But what I think it's really fascinating that comes along with that mindset is a belief system that life is about this or that. And I believe that life is about this and that, right? That's what I believe. And so I think that's what we're talking about today, to get out of the mindset that it's either this or that, to go, wait, hold on a second. I'm not giving myself enough credit. I could do this and that, right? So that we understand first that is it coming from a desire to express another a sense of creativity, another sense of insight from yourself, or is it coming from an external need? I should. So there's that difference as well.
Absolutely. And I love it. We're getting some awesome comments. Stephanie Russell is saying she practices hair, plaid artistry with Redken, coach, Reiki practitioner, podcaster. Jess is saying registered nurse, medium, hairdresser. So awesome.
I love that, because I think what is so interesting, Andrew, at least for me, with the way that my life has traveled and has worked itself out. When I look back, when I get to look back now, right? We're at an age in our at least I'm at an age in my journey where I can look back at life. And what I realize now is that life speaks to you in a way that it knows you will understand. It speaks to you in a way that it knows that it won't scare you. But you, all of us, come with we've used this word before, with a gift, a purpose, a calling, if you may, right? That's what we come with. But then we come here and we show up as humans, and with that comes limitations and fear and worry and all of those things. So life goes, okay, got it. What I would love for you to do is to go from point A to point B. That's what we would love. But you're human. So you're going to go A, W, L, M, monkey, zebra, X, F, and then come back to B finally, right?
Right.
And life goes, great. So you're 75 now when you're getting finally to B. But B is where you were supposed to be because that's your purpose. That's your calling. That's one of your reasons why here. So why do I share that? Because for me, and I'm incredibly humbled and grateful, to have had, as a lot of people here, the stages that I've been on, the people that I've had the opportunity to speak to, the countries that I've gotten to travel. If you would have said that to me at 17, my mind would have said, no, way too big for me. Mm-hmm. Way too big. That's not for me. You're talking to the wrong person. So life goes, got it, beauty school. You'll still be artistic. That's the door that will lead you to those other doors. The cherry on top for me, that the beauty industry was something that I just absolutely fell in love with, that I felt called me. So thank God that as I was going from one door to the next, I was doing it always from a base, a foundation of something I love doing, Yeah,
absolutely. And we've talked about this very often, that it's almost like the hair industry is this gateway drug, because so many people that I know that have this kind of multi-career mindset. Well, I guess it makes sense that they would be people I know, but many of them are hairdressers. And yes. I feel like the hairdressing industry kind of sets that up, because from the very first time I became a hairdresser, I'd say within 6 months of me becoming a hairdresser, I became a TG ambassador, and I went out and started to teach classes for TG hair products. Like I'd go into salons and stuff and, do the little, hey, this is this shampoo and it has vitamins A, C, and E and blah, 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 good for this hair type, But very early on in my hair career, I was kind of shown that you can have all these different kind of identities within the hair world. And a lot of that was the guy that I worked for. He showed me to be, we did photo shoots, we did runway shows, we did artistic installations. Like we had a DJ booth in the salon. Like we all thought we were DJs. Like, he definitely kind of set it up that we can be so many different things in this industry.
Right.
And then it also kind of was the catalyst that introduced me to coaching and into the other things that I've experimented with over the years. But yeah, the hair industry seems like a place that tends to be open to this kind of multi-career mindset.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's really interesting. And I love that's how your journey, right? Because all of our journeys is so individual. For me, I apprenticed for 2 years. I went into one of those really strong Vidal Sassoon. This is how we train. It's a 2-year program. Right. Michael Morgan, he has since passed away, was the gentleman who I apprenticed under. Mm-hmm. And he was actually hired by Mr. Vidal Sassoon himself. He was actually doing illustration and graphic design work for Vidal Sassoon. He wasn't even doing hair cutting. And Vidal Sassoon was like, God, you're so meticulous. Have you thought about cutting hair? So at 17, after taking 3 buses from Inglewood, which is the hood here in California, that's the salon I go to. And I had no idea who this man was. So again, that to me, for real. And I believe that's also life protecting me. Had somebody said, oh, and by the way, because it was 2 people that one owned the salon and he was like the artistic director. And so obviously I was talking to the owner of the salon, but he was there as well. But no one sort of mentioned him. They're like, you're going to talk to the owner. And the owner was the complete he was just like sweet. He reminded me of this like Still Magnolias kind of hairdresser, right? He did it all. Lashes and roller sets, and his clients loved him. And Michael was like this artistic, very meticulous. His clients feared him. They wouldn't even be like 5 minutes late. So I show up to that, and through that I get exposed to a completely different world by the clients that he has. So I think that's a lot as well. I start seeing people in the interior design world. I start seeing educators. So then I start to go, oh, I didn't know that I didn't know, right? I didn't know that you could also make a living. Like, I didn't know you could make a living designing people's homes. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, I didn't know that, right? And so I think that also why this journey, this beauty industry, assists so many of us into, because it's either, to your point, whether you are going to be hired by a certain brand, or it's through the clients that you start to meet that start to introduce you to different worlds and different things. We
Great point.
now go, oh, wait a minute, this is available. I like this. I'm not used to it, but I can
Yep.
get used to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Clients for me had a big, a big push in the way my life went. I was very fortunate and blessed with just ending up there, because the clients that were the clients of the owners that I apprenticed, and I guess because I was 17 and I didn't know that, it allowed me to now just open up like my head and just absorb it, just let it in, you know?
Yeah, I'm curious too, because I'm assuming that hair came first. Where did the spiritual practitioner, there's another thing that you studied, spiritual.
Yeah, so I got spiritual psychology. So I got my master's in spiritual psychology, which with that, you're a licensed spiritual practitioner. So what's really interesting for that, I saw there was one of the comments, I believe she's an esthetician and also like a medium, I think.
Nurse and medium, yeah.
Nurse and medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's really interesting, there was a woman who, to today, she's still part of my life, by the way. So imagine 33 years, I was 17, I'm 50 years old now, right? This woman was a manicurist at the salon that I worked at. And I'll never forget, she had a moment, she didn't have clients, and she was just like this being. So I always say now that manicuring was her disguise, but she was more of a healer, more of a light worker that needed to kind of travel this world as a manicurist so that people wouldn't be like, who's that crazy lady? You know, that kind of thing. So I remember one day sitting, like she had an opening, and I wasn't busy or something, like I was on a break or something. And she just called me. She said, come here. She said, sit right here. And she grabbed my hands as if she was going to start maybe filing or doing something manicure-like. She grabbed my hand and put this is her hand, put my hand on top of that, and then put her hand on top of that. And she looked at me right in my eyes. Like no one had ever done that in my entire 17 years. Not my mom, not another parent, no one. She looked at me right in my eyes and she goes, oh my God. She goes, you are hurting so much. And I was like, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Like that moment of someone taking a time, and that's something else that taught me to say something that might sound weird to the other individual, but you know what? I'm going to just say it anyways, because that's
throw it out there. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And he took that chance. You know, I might sound weird to this 17-year-old kid. He might be like, lady, what are you talking about? You're crazy or whatever. But she still just did it. And that taught me that, how do I do that for someone? How, if I notice something, how would I address someone to be like, hey, listen, I just wanted to share this with you. And so anyways, so she said that, and she gave me my very first book by an author named Louise Hay. And the book was called You Can Heal Your Life. And what was so fascinating was that even though the majority of words in that book were words that I had not heard, my soul recognized them because they felt good to me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted more, and I wanted more. And and that is how I believe. Interesting that you asked me that, because now as I'm sharing it, that's how I believe that started. I really do. And I always credit her for that, because, and I remember as I'm reading the book, I think I was like 3 parts through the book, and I came to work one day and said, I just want to thank you so much for, helping me get on my spiritual journey. And she looked at me, of course, and she grabbed my hands and she goes, beloved, she goes, you're on your spiritual journey. She goes, that's where we met. And I was like, oh my God, you won't take any credit. You're so amazing. You know what I mean? but now we're all on our journey. We are, there's no place to arrive to. We're here. We're here. And through our journey, we're going to meet people that are going to remind us, oh, I am on my journey. Got it. Thank you. I forgot. Yeah. That's all that was,
Yeah. So what gave you the sense that, like, okay, yeah, I'm a hairdresser, I'm doing the thing at the salon, and I can now also pursue this master's degree in, spiritual. I'm missing the word again.
Spiritual psychology.
Spiritual psychology, right?
Yeah.
So what made you feel like, yeah, I can do this. I can like be a hairdresser and go get this master's.
Well, so again, just the timing of life. So one, I just wanted to figure out for myself, right? I just wanted my own insights. And at this time, I already owned my salon. So that gave me the opportunity to create my own schedule, right? To say, I'm going to take off on this day. I'm going to leave early that day, because to make, changes for classes and things of that nature. Because I hadn't gone to school since like beauty school and classes that we take for our industry, but not like I'm going back to school. But really quickly, what I want to share with all of this is for all of us here to remain open as to, that's why I said that life isn't about this or that, it's about this and that. And to always remember that life will speak to you in a way that it knows you will understand specifically. Just, we have to remember that if it sounds so too easy, it's supposed to be. Don't go, no, that's too easy. It can't be for me. No, it is that easy. It's supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, the universe isn't going to send you some scavenger hunt to try to find out what your path is, right? So one Sunday, there's a spiritual center here in Los Angeles, the Agape International Center. And UTS at the university had a table outside. Now, I have a big challenge with education. I've always felt I'm not smart enough. We talked about this one day in one of the Testimony Thursdays. English being my second language, I always thought I don't get things like other people. So continuation of school was something that I was like, absolutely not, right? But there was something about the individual who was, the two people who were at the table, right, for information, and the way that they said good morning, that I was like, well, that's so nice. Like, how sweet are you? And then I went up to the table. I was like, hey, well, what's this about? They're like, oh, well, we're from University of Transformational Studies and Leadership. And, we offer these programs, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, my first thought, and why do I share with? Because it's so important how the chatter will come. My first thought was money. I won't be able to afford it. So I want us to be careful with that. That'll be another thought, the thing that comes on. I was like, oh, school, no loans, no grants, no this. Oh, I don't know if I'll be able to afford it, right? And they go, no. And so all of a sudden the person says, listen, if you want to take our information, they literally said this to me. They go, we will not turn anybody away for no financial reason. I was like, what? And I didn't take that as, well, why'd you say that to me for? Do I look like I can't afford it? You know how sometimes our ego could have us go to that place? Instead, there was something within me that said, I needed to hear that. Here's the kicker. I call, right? And the number I get is the attendance lady. I call Janet Glass. I'll never forget. I call her and I leave a message. She calls me back and she says, were you in a workshop about sacred relationships about 3 weeks ago? I had taken this 3-day workshop. She was there. I didn't know. She's the administrator for this university, right? The person who does the attendees, all of that. And I said, yeah. She goes, I was there too. And I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. She said, listen, would you be interested? So I said, I'm interested. I want to sign up. I want to see. She said, would you be interested in being a registrar? And I was like, I said, yes. My first learn to say yes and then figure out what it is later. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. Anyways, she goes, all you're supposed to do is when people come to class is you'll sign them in. If they're going to do any payments, you take their payments, you put this back in my office, da, 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 da. And I was like, fantastic. I'm like, well, I'll get to meet some people. She says to me, Andrew Carruthers, she goes, that takes away half of your tuition. I'm telling you that I was just like, wait a minute. If this is not life saying to me, see how you're on the right path? See how you're on the right, you know what I mean? And it was just those things, the moment I kept listening and paying attention. And so that's what led me. And the beginning program was only the accredited classes to go into the master's program. I didn't even know that I was entering a master's program too, by the way, which I think goes back to what I said, that life will keep you from knowing things, because at that moment I could have probably been like, oh, master's. Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a master.
Yeah, well, right. No one in my family's ever gotten a master's of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So that's not for me. And it just was until I was finishing up the accredited program that somebody said to me, they go, "Oh, are you going to go through with to the masters?" And I was like, "What did you say?" They were like, "Oh yeah, these classes are the accredited classes to go into the master's program." And I was like, "Wow!" But by that point, I was so into it that I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. How do we go from there? What happens?" You know?
Most definitely. Yeah, lots of good comments too. I mean, you're definitely speaking the language that needs to be spoken tonight. Speaking of, the universe has, says things in the ways that you want to hear it. And, Shirley is just saying, like, it's supposed to be easy, loving that. And I just want to come back to that, because I do think that that is something that we tend to brush aside, because we think that things are supposed to be hard. We're supposed to be challenged by them. And very often, that easiest path is actually the best path. It's like, no, this path is plated in gold for you. Why are you looking at it and saying, "Oh, well, that's too easy"? And I think it's partially because of that message that we've heard for a long time, that we have to grind for it. Like, we got to push for it, we got to struggle for it. And it's just like, no. And Maria mentioned, have to follow your gut. And from my coach training, multiple brain integration, we talk about the gut being our source of intuition. And so that's exactly right, Maria. Like, following that intuitive sense that we can trust, that's also something that very often we tend to kind of push to the side. So
absolutely, absolutely. So if I may, I just want to speak to a couple of things. One, I want to just go on this. It should be easy. It's supposed to be easy. What actually is the opposite is that if it's challenging, that is your first sign that that's not for you. That should literally, and that doesn't mean give up. That doesn't mean like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time putting this together." Like, so let's think bigger than that. If I'm trying and obstacles keep showing up, then I go, "Hold on a second. Let me just take a step back. If not, this is not for me. At least let me pause. Let me take a step back and see if there's another way for me to be able to go through this experience." So, because I think what is important for us to understand is, I had a professor in my second semester that we clicked, Hope Elliott. We clicked. We just, I don't know how or why, but we did. The interesting thing about it, she had always taught the second semester of the accredited program, but she was qualified to teach even in the master's program, right? This is what this woman was. That she actually decided to go into the master's program, to teach the master's program, so that when I entered the master's program, I would be in her class. Like, those kind of things, right? Here's something else about the gut. What I want to make sure, because of I want to share my experience, that we can identify what Andrew's talking about, that it really is our gut, our intuition, and not our chatter or ego. That same professor, Hope Elliott, said to me once, and it stayed for me forever and will stay with me till my dying breath. She said, "Remember that ego's job is to protect you, even if it means keeping you stuck." I was like, huge. What? Ego's job is to protect you, even if it means keeping you stuck, because ego will speak to you like a good friend. Ego will say, "Come on, Carlo, you don't want to try that. It's not for you. It's too hard. They're going to make fun of you. You're going to fail." And you go, "Oh, that's true." Like, that's why you give up, because it puts up a really good case in a tone that seems very compassionate, that seems very empathetic. If the ego really spoke to us in its true way, which is like, "Hey, Carlo, I hope you realize I'm going to mess with you. I'm going to keep you small. I'm going to keep you from growing." We'd be like, "What the hell? Where did that come from?" Right? But it doesn't. It goes, "Come on, you tried that. Remember that when you tried to go do that and it didn't work, and that other experience?" And we go, "Yeah, that's right." So I want us to make sure that when we say, "I'm listening to my gut," that we are really listening to that intuitive place that Andrew's talking about, and not that ego whose job is to protect us while keeping us stuck in a path that isn't for our highest and greatest good or of anybody involved. So I just wanted to bring those two things up.
Yeah. No, I think that's super important. And I think the more that we tap into that that kind of inner true voice, then we're more prepared to hear it.
Yes.
We're more prepared to make that distinction between what is that deeper intuitive truth versus something that is maybe the ego popping up. And like you said, it doesn't talk to us like, here, I'm the ego and I'm gonna beat you up. It's more like, hey man, like remember, you don't, it doesn't feel good to get beat up on. It doesn't feel good when you fail. Like I'm trying to protect you from these ugly things. And
That's
so
it.
yeah, it's super important to start to make the distinction
That's
between
it.
which
That's it.
voice.
Think about it, from a job to the gym to anything. Like, oh, come on. Listen, even I've done it. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Let me get in shape before I go to the gym. Like,
Right.
how much sense does that even make? So
Yeah.
where am I going to get in shape if I haven't done it till now? But that's, and I'm just using that as an example of just how ludicrous the conversation that we will court with the ego is, you know?
Right. Yep. And so as far as being able to step out and like kind of expand these horizons that we have, and I want to kind of like draw us to the idea too, because this last year, I think what we've all experienced in the disruption in our work and time that we had at home, I think it started to get people thinking about, well, maybe I should actually be more than just this one thing. And I don't
Yes.
want to say just a hairdresser, because
Right, right.
it's not just being a hairdresser,
Or
like,
whatever it is.
you know, but
Yeah.
it's like I think a lot of people started to realize that maybe it would be good for me to have these multiple streams of income, these multiple interests. So if one does kind of get plucked away from me, there's also this happening over here. But again, it kind of grates against what we've been taught for so long, which is to have this kind of singular focus.
Yes, yes. You know what's really interesting? You said tomorrow, I believe you're going to have that gentleman who's going to help with like editing videos on Instagram and TikTok, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I heard something the other day that just caught my attention, because you know that TikTok is the #1 growing platform of any other platform as far as Instagram and stuff like that. But here's why to what you're talking about. Because, and it grew the most last year in 2020. Why? Because all of a sudden we were seeing a rawer people showing up in more of their authentic self, right? Because we weren't allowed to go and take these vacations and show up in front of these things and pretend like I'm doing this and pretend like I'm doing that. People were doing, you know, oh, look what I figured out how to do it yourself at home. And now these people are like sharing how to like create this bathroom and do this and do that. And people are going like, you know, I've always been good with plants. I saw somebody there. And now there's someone who has like, you know, 10 million followers, and what they do is give people like advice on plants, right? Because all of a sudden we were home and people were like, well, hold on a second. I mean, I'm good at plants. I'm here by myself. Let me load up a video. Maybe there's a couple of people that would be interested in seeing how to do work with your plants. And this person now has got 10 million followers, and they're getting ready to open up a store, and now they've got people. So it's really interesting. I find how life, if we are present enough, will guide us to what are those things that we are being called to do, you know, and not have that chatter from ourselves, let alone anybody else that says, oh my God, Carlo, that's ridiculous. No one's going to watch a video about you showing them how to like take care of plants.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you ever find that having those different focuses, like having multiple kind of places that you do place your focus, is overwhelming, or if it kind of distracts you from the other things?
No, you know what? No, Andrew. And here's why. I was giving this some thought, and what I feel is there is a strong common denominator in all that I do, and it's people. It's people. That's the common denominator, whether it's coaching, whether it's behind the chair, whether it's personal development, whether it's working with a team of hairdressers or a team at a spiritual center. The common denominator that I'm working with is individuals. And that is at the core, my calling, my passion, my gift. And so for me, the things that where I'm going to be working with people seems very easy, again, effortless. It's like, of course, Of course, I can connect really well with people. I mean, look at the what you're doing. I saw someone, as you were saying, hey, post where you're watching from. And somebody posted from where they were watching. They were like, I love Wellness Wednesdays. It's like, look what is being created because you are using your gift that you say, listen, I like to connect with people. I like to communicate. I like to inspire. I like to motivate. I like to uplift people. Okay, this seems very easy for me. It doesn't seem challenging. You know, it's not like, oh, on Wednesdays at 4:00, I go work at a cement place where they make cement and I'm driving one of those cement trucks. Maybe for someone that would be an easy transition, but for me, that one denominator is people. And that's why I feel that it's really interesting. It's an easy transition. I find it so fascinating. And this is the part that it's so interesting because I kept for a long time those worlds apart. And I know we're going to be talking about this tomorrow, but I kept those worlds apart, you know, because I was like this closeted spiritual person. Do you know what I mean? That, you know, people saw me, right? People saw me as the motivational guy. Okay, you could be a hairdresser and be motivational. That's acceptable, right? Because you could be like, you're doing a good job and keep going and you're going to build a clientele. So I can be inspirational that way. Spiritual. Oh, no. Who do you think you are? Now you're stepping on somebody else's toes or blah, 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 whatever, chatter.
Who am I to be in? Yeah. All those things.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And so for me, you know, what was really interesting was going on my first Sunday, doing my Sunday message. I mean, I shared with Adriana Serrano, I remember my finger was shaking to hit the like go live button because everything was going, no, you don't have to. I know you posted. I know you said you would go on, but you don't have to. You could put a post later on that said, sorry, I had technical difficulties, blah, blah, blah. But I remember going on, and what I've learned is that I call it out. Just call it out. And I remember sharing that to the people. I said, you know, I have to tell you, I felt like a fraud. I felt like I was going to come out here and I was going to be judged and I was going to be, people were like, oh my God, no, Carlo, this is who we've known you to be. And I was like, oh, so again, that was a story I created because people's comments were like, no, thank you. We needed this right now. Oh my God, this, what are you talking about? This is who we thought you were. And then what's so interesting now, having my clients, not my coaching clients, but my clients at in the hair world, when they go, oh, I saw your Sunday message. Oh, it's so beautiful. Or I saw your testimony Thursday. God, I love what you guys were talking about. And I'm like, huh, all right. So we're still going to keep you right here at the chin and maybe, you know, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, that is, okay, I love this very much, right? I think we're going to keep the bangs a little bit on the longer side. But yeah, so when we're done with that, I want you to talk to me a little bit more about what you and Ender were talking about, you know, and I'm like, wow, it's just mixing because at the end of the day, the paths that I've chosen on to be on are the paths of connection, you know? And so I can't take responsibility for this. It's actually Yurish that says this all the time, and I don't know where he got it from, where he came up with it. But he says, if you think that we are only in the hair cutting or hair coloring business, you are sadly mistaken. Yeah. We're in the connections business.
Yes.
That's what we're on. And so that also, along with humans, has been my great common denominator, is that what I'm doing is I'm building connections. I'm trying to connect with people. I'm trying to have people connect with each other. And so that's another reason why life coaching, I'm like, yeah, I'm connecting. I'm helping people connect with themselves when I get asked to go speak. But what's really important, though, going back to the hustle mentality, I always check in with myself first. You know, that's what I loved so much when you had your other guest. And that's when I started to learn and said, you know what? I literally will say this to people, Andrew. I'll say, Andrew, if you need an answer right now, the answer is no, if you need it right now. But if you give me some time to think, I may give you a different answer. The answer may still be no, but it'll now be from a place where I've thought it through. Right? And people go, oh, okay. I go, if you could give me at least 12 hours or 24 hours to think about it, I'll give you my answer. It might still be no, but at least I've given it some thought. I'm giving you now an answer from a place of respectfulness and from a place where I've thought it through.
Sure.
But if what you're asking is like, yeah, but I need to know right now, then it's going to have to be a no. Unless it is such a yes that the person before they've even finished, like when you asked me to come, I was like, yeah, yes. You know, when you were like, would you be on next Wednesday? I was like, yes, that's a yes. I'll be there. You know what I mean? That wasn't like, oh, let me think about it. But I think it's important for us to really, when those things like that show up, to be able to pause for a second and to go, you know what? I'd love to really give this some thought so that I could give you a decision that is from a place that is informed.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely. Yeah. Lots of love again, like coming in from the comments. Yes, Simone, we all love his energy. That's why I love having him on.
Thank you.
And yeah, Stephanie's saying just coming out of the spiritual closet too. And
Yeah.
you know, here's the thing is I think that what you said is so important. It's because I think we tend to compartmentalize, right? Like, well, during the hours of 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., I'm Carlo, the boyfriend, Carlo, the dog father, you know.
Yeah.
And then at 9 a.m., I start being Carlo, the spiritual practitioner. And then
Yes.
at 11 a.m., I start to be Carlo, the hairdresser. And then when I turn that off, and this is exactly kind of what we're talking about tomorrow, too, isn't it? But
Yeah.
like, we have to recognize that it's all one. It's
Yes.
still you. It's still me. I'm still
Yes.
Andrew, whether
Yes.
I'm on my Harley Davidson or I'm doing my yoga practice or I'm being a hairdresser or I'm being a hairdressing teacher or I'm being a life coach or if I'm being a motivational speaker. It's all still me. And I
That's
think
right.
that's where people start to feel distracted and pulled apart by having these multi kind of multi perceptions or multi places that they put their energy is it's almost like they just try to keep them so far apart. And I
Yes.
think one of the ways that I found personally that took so much of that stress away was when I stopped fighting with that and I said, oh, you know what? No, I can still be a hairdressing teacher. I can still be this person and also be that like very spiritual person that I like to be. I can
Yeah.
also be that life coach that I want to be. And it
Yes.
doesn't have to be a separation of sorts.
That's right. That's right. One of the when I was in my master's program, so I went through the second part of the master's program or the final part twice. The first time I stopped because it was really interesting. Everything that I was visualizing for, manifesting for, was really coming through. I was being asked to do more jobs. I was traveling more. And I was like, oh, I'll take my work on the road. And you know how that is. I mean, you're doing a show, call time at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then and then I was going to get to the hotel and start studying and doing homework. Like, that's not going to happen. Right. Yeah. So then I would come back to school the next day just feeling awful that I just barely finished work or didn't finish it all the way, or et cetera, et cetera. So I said, I'm going to have to take a pause. I'm going to have to take a pause and focus either one or the other. And everything that I've been focusing on as far as my hair career is really booming right now. It's taking off. I'm going to put this on pause and I'm going to go there. And I remember speaking to a professor that I had at the time. He has since passed away. He was a professor, Reverend Nirvana Gale. And I was distraught, Andrew. I was distraught. I felt like such a failure that I wasn't giving up. I was pausing it. They were like, you could come back. Like, I wasn't ending it. But yet the chatter. And I said, I just feel really bad. And he said, hold on a second. He goes, do you think that the individual that you are, that is evolving, you put that on like a lab coat and then get to the office and take it off and then take it on? He goes, no, that's how you show up on the planet. He goes, wherever you go, there you are. And that is where I got the saying that I added to that. The way that you show up to the world is the way the world is going to show up to you. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he is the one who said, he goes, no, it's not a lab coat. You don't put it on and off. That's who you are. That's how you're evolving. That's how you're showing up. Life has called you to go now take what you've learned and now go share it where you're being called to work. And I was like, wow. I didn't think about it that way. Did that, got that under my belt, got that going, came back, graduated. I was the valedictorian of my class. It was just really amazing. I just think it's important for all of us to just recognize that sometimes that we have to put something on pause to maybe put the heat up a little bit more on my coaching, or I'm going to put my teaching on pause because I'm going to put the heat up on this one, that it
Right.
doesn't mean you failed at that one. It doesn't mean you gave up on that one. It just means like, no. I didn't take it off of the heat. It's just now on simmer. I'm turning up the heat on this one. This one needs my attention a little bit more. Putting my eye on this one more. This one I'm actually putting in the back burner, still in the stove. I haven't taken it away. I'm not giving up on it. It's just the heat's lower on this one because there's a lot of activity happening on this one right here, you know?
Totally. Yeah, just that prioritization process of like, this is what needs that time and focus. Because let's face it, we only have so much time in the day. And if we want to have that ability to have those multiple focuses, and by the way, I do want to also express, Carlo, kind of going back to even what you said earlier, it's not like you have to do that. And it's not even like, I don't want it to make it seem like we're saying like you should, because that's the word. You should have all these different interests. You should have multiple careers. If you're the person that is super, super happy working your 30, 40 hours a week, at the salon, and that's your focus, you like to clock out at the end of the day, go home and be a mom or be a whatever you are, that's great too. I think this particular conversation was about we're seeing a lot of people that want to now branch out. They want to expand their interests. They want to be a hairdresser, nurse, medium. They want to be a hairdresser, coach, educator, spiritual practitioner. And so that's why we felt like this was an important conversation to have tonight, to just share a little bit about like, how do we get to a place that it's okay to be that, and to also thrive in that space and not feel burned out by it.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up, Andrew, because the comment that I made earlier when I said that life isn't about this or that, it's about this and that, it includes that as well. It includes those people as well, right? It includes those people that are like, actually, I get all of my joys in the one career that I have. I get all of my joys. It's like, no, we need people like you in this world. That's the balance of life. We need that for those of us who are, in a few different things. We need that stability of a friend that we could lean on and go, oh my God, I just needed to talk to someone who's just doing this one thing, and just get that perspective. So no, there's a need for every single human being, including that, of those people who are like, actually, I have to tell you, I love what I do, and I love that that's all that I do, because then it gives me time to, like you said, to be with my children, with my spouse, to work on my garden, whatever it is. So I'm glad you shared that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, Carlo, we've mentioned he is an actual coach too. So if you've felt some kind of connection with Carlo and what he's sharing with you, how do they connect with you best, Carlo?
So a couple of things. One, you could message me on Facebook, Carlo Navoa. That's how you find me on Facebook. You've put my Lit From Within right there, which is my Instagram. That's my inspirational, motivational page. You could always DM me from there, and then we could start a conversation. Awesome. I'm working on websites and things of that nature right now.
I'm always working on websites. Yes. I hate websites.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you say that, because I have to tell you, I'm working on that balance of like, but do I really need that to grow the kind of business that I'm working on? Like that's my mind. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of dealing with that, because again, you were talking about 2020. What I find so fascinating, when you continue to listen, again, remember, it speaks to you in the way that it knows you'll understand. I had people reach out to me from the lives that we do. When I was doing my Wednesday Women of Power, when I was doing my testimony Tuesday, now it's Thursday, when I do my Sunday message, I would have people DM me because of that and go, I'm just wondering, are you taking online clients right now? And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How does that work? It works because when you're aligned, you will draw into your vibration, into your frequency, people that are aligned as well. You won't have to say anything. It's by the way that you show up that somebody goes, oh, I'd love to have a talk with that person. Yeah. So just know that, all of us.
I'm a believer. I'm a full-on believer. And
Yeah.
to his just what he mentioned, on Wednesdays, Carlo has a brilliant show called Wednesday Women of Power, where he does an interview with someone in a woman, not someone, a woman specifically, that is in a great and powerful position in our communities. And then Testimony Thursday, which will be happening tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on, or 10 a.m., sorry, Pacific on Instagram Live, is actually the show that Carlo and I do together now every Thursday. And if you've been enjoying this conversation, I would highly recommend that you join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. because I think the continuation, especially of the authenticity aspect of this, is going to be perfectly on point to continue this conversation. So,
Yes. Yeah.
Carlo, we just have, from everyone here at Zambia, we just really want to thank you so very much for spending time with us and spending time with the community here. Please, in the chat, show some love for Carlo, some gratitude for Carlo, and thank you so much. And I will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early.
Yes, you will. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and lots of love to each and every single one of you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. And always, brother, it's always a pleasure. You know that it's always an easy yes when it comes to you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Great show. So much fun. You guys can see why we love to have Carlo on the show, because his energy is just incredibly infectious and inspirational.